much, everybody, for joining us. Now, I will give you a bit of a disclaimer and say today we have a lot of slides to get through. Okay, so we are going to be whizzing through, but of course, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will strive to answer all of them by the end of the session. So we might not be able to, pause every single time, but we will definitely address them towards the end of the session, just to make sure everybody gets away on time this evening as well. If anybody's running behind, of course, they can meet up with us, catch up with us. I know some people have been in touch saying they're running a bit late, but we'll just get started in the interest of time to appreciate your evening plans as well. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody. I was really delighted to see 100% turnout on Monday, an amazing way to kick off the program. You probably would have heard from me yesterday evening with a bunch of information, so don't worry if it was too overwhelming or anything like that. But hopefully we just want to make sure you have all the information you need at the start, so you know how to make the most of the program as the weeks kind of progress. But if you ever need, just please access those emails for a list of information. There's all sorts on there. You can also always drop me an email and I will reply, but it might not be straight away, but we will strive to get to your inquiry as soon as possible. Main things are, you should all be allocated your mentors now, so please do start reaching out to them. And I'm happy to hear quite a few of you already have started that as well. So today we're going to be covering the deep dive session into vision, desirability, and markets. Now, like I was saying there last session, we're essentially going to be using the business model canvas as a sort of program guide, if you will, for a lot of the Accelerator program. So this is us now moving along that business model canvas. We've started with the value proposition, and we're going to be focusing on things like your customer segments and whatnot on the sort of right-hand side of that canvas today, before progressing to the other sections as well. Okay, so today's session is going to be covering a refresher on the value proposition and the business model canvas, spotlight on your customers as well, and also on your relationships, channels, and segmenting, and then also talking about evaluating potential markets. We do have a wee game to play, though, as a wee bit of an icebreaker to get things going. So if you could please head to menti.com, like we tried to do at the boot camp, and I think we were having some technical difficulties. You can scan the QR code on the screen. That works as well. This should be tested and fine. That should work. If it's not working for you, please do head to menti.com and type in the code 4316618. Okay? And let me know if that's coming through. I'm just going to have to switch to Menti. Let me know by show of hands when you get there, if that's popping up for you.
Sorry, Aisha, what's the code again?
Yeah, sure. So the code for Menti is 4316618. I'll also pop it in the chat so people have that to access. Okay. So menti.com, code 4316618. Okay, and let me know if that's working. So are people raising their hands? Do we have some questions? Josh and Cyril, are you raising your hands, or is that high five? I'm not sure.
You just said raise our hands once we've made it into Menti.
Oh yes, okay, great. Okay, that's fine. Thanks. So you're confirming you've got it. So that's great. Thank you. Great. I'm glad it's working this time. Yeah. So when we're all sort of pretty much there, I will be able to share my screen again. And I see majority of us are there, are we? Yeah. Okay, great. Perfect. Okay, so a few questions, just like kind of getting to know you a wee bit better as well. I know some of you do know each other, but this is just helping those kind of conversations going along. So we will launch Menti. Okay, so can you share an emoji of how you're feeling right now? Oh gosh, someone's crying. That's not great, guys. I hope you're okay. Okay, so there's some crying faces. Somebody's feeling excited, but tired, but excited. Okay, appreciate it's a Wednesday. Yeah, it's kind of hump day, isn't it? Somebody feels, is that a raccoon or is that a sloth? No, that's a sloth, isn't it? Somebody feels like a sloth. I guess
It
It's,
feels like a sloth.
who feels like a sleepy sloth? Anybody want to volunteer? Who
That's
feels
my
like
daughter. If that was my daughter was here, she'd be a sloth every time, I'm sure.
all day, every day? Yeah, I can relate to a sloth sometimes as well, especially with this weather.
Worry. Yeah.
Yeah, today.
So sleepy. Who's crying? I hope by the end of it, whoever's crying will be not crying.
Not crying anymore, hopefully. Okay, somebody's got stars in their eyes. That's great. That's good to see. Yeah.
Someone hungry. Does the knife and fork mean somebody's hungry and then haven't got anything?
Oh, yeah.
That'll be me. No snacks today.
Oh, Colin, are you
Lots of
hungry? You've not
snacks,
had your
Colin.
dinner.
Lots of snacks.
Oh dear, yeah. Colin, get some snacks. Yeah. Undecisive. Okay, interesting. Somebody's feeling cool with the shades. Yeah, somebody's feeling happy. I think that's a happy, and someone's an upside down face. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I like that emoji too. Where are you from? Tell us where you're from. We kind of gathered this a wee bit, but just kind of reiterate again where you're from in the world today. Joining us from all sorts, maybe some people have traveled, some people aren't at their home base. Okay, this is when we figure out who's good at geography, isn't it, Chris? Maps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at putting. I'm doing my phones. I'm not very good at putting. I'm probably somewhere there, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There you
Oh,
go.
is somebody in the States? That looks like the States, doesn't it? Somebody joining us from this. Oh, where are you from? I suppose, yeah, because that could be where you're actually
Oh, yeah,
dialing
yeah,
from
yeah,
and
yeah.
where you're from. Yeah.
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 North
Heritage.
America or is that Canada? It's just below.
Yeah.
That's Canada if my geography's in
Of course,
Jeremy.
Jeremy. Of course, Canada. Yes. Yeah, Canada's beautiful. I visited once Vancouver. It's lovely.
That's a good place.
Nice.
That's the place you want to visit if you're going to Canada. Absolutely.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Nigeria.
Nigeria. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. There's a little kind of island at the top of, is that a little island someone's from?
I think that's that.
Trinidad.
Trinidad. Ah, yes. Yes. Oh, that'll be Shauna. Let me guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shauna. Shauna, definitely. Great.
Yeah,
Representing.
Nigeria. Is that Romania?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Oh, we're not so bad at geography, are we, Chris? That's lovely. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you so much. And what superpower would you like to have? If somebody said, right, you can have any superpower in the world, which one do you think you would like to have? These are the kind of options. So which ones do you think most relate to you? Okay, indestructible is a clear. Fly, yes. Kind of reminds me of that ride at Alton Towers. I don't know if anybody ever went on it, but it was like you were flying. Oh gosh, flying is really popular. Wow, interesting. You save a lot of air miles and your budget, I guess. Fly. Wow. Which one would you take, Chris?
I put fly.
Ah, will you fly as well?
Yeah, just fly to because I live 45 minutes from work. I'd like to fly to work and then fly down to see Ben and Emily. Definitely fly, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As long as you don't bump into any drones or anything on the way or seagulls. Yeah, have to navigate.
Somebody's already super powerful.
That's good. That's good.
Colin, obviously.
Is that Colin?
Not sure. It could be Sabina. I'm looking at Sabina there. It could be Sabina. It sounds not her.
Oh, fly is a clear winner. Much more popular. Yeah. Invisibility as well, followed by invisibility. But yeah, fly is very popular. Interesting. What animal do you think represents you as an entrepreneur or as an innovator?
This is
So if you had a spirit animal in terms of your entrepreneurship style, innovative style. A raccoon. Okay, we had 2 raccoons, yeah. Had them on the accelerator as well, yeah. A dolphin? Gosh, I'm curious. Okay,
I
kangaroo.
know.
Is that because you're always hopping around from business to business or hopping around the place? Homo sapien, very quite, yes. An eagle, a terrier.
No sharks, yeah. No sharks.
No sharks.
Tenacious. Terrier's tenacious.
Yeah.
Kangaroo. Kangaroo's an interesting one. I don't think we've had that before.
I think the great thing about kangaroos is their pouches. I was talking about this the other day. It's fantastic they have a pouch. It's such an ingenious evolution. Yeah. Who put kangaroo? Can we ask who put kangaroo and why?
That was me. Okay. That's normally jumping about idea to idea. So I thought it was probably the best representation for me.
Yeah, I like the imagery of it. That's kind of what I guessed it would be. That's cool. Somebody put-
Chameleon, that's a good one. I like chameleon. I quite like that.
Hmm.
I someone's put lobster.
I saw
Touching-
lobster. I'm not sure about lobster either. Okay, who put
Lobster.
lobster? And then we'll move on to the next one.
Entrepreneurial lobster.
Who's our entrepreneurial lobster in the house? Is that Luis?
Luis?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. If you go,
Oh, you're coming through a bit unclear, Louise. I'm afraid. Maybe
Yeah,
you
your
can type in
audio
the
is not
chat.
great.
Yeah. Type in the chat why you're a lobster. Entrepreneur lobster. That would be great. Thanks. And what are you most looking forward to in the Startup Accelerator? If somebody said that to you, out of all the range of things on offer, what do you think you're most looking forward to? Help. Yeah. Yeah, help and support, definitely.
Or is it help?
I'm reminded of the Beatles song. I need somebody help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Learning new things, the showcase. All right.
What a showcase.
Ooh, very good. Yeah, that's confidence. That's what I like. Meeting other startups and learning, guidance and networking, community, structure, deadlines, getting to know like-minded people. Yeah. Lift off. Oh yeah, that's it. Good.
That's interesting, structure and deadlines. Because I think as entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial people, often, quite unfocused maybe, and on to the next thing, not to the next thing, and they have lots of good ideas, I think. And I think that's one thing that hopefully this will make you do is to dedicate time to the idea and to having that developed in a structured manner, so that by the end of the showcase, you are in a position where you can kind of launch your business, or or you've done your customer discovery and you find actually there's not a viable business there and you need to pivot and stuff like that. So it does kind of give you that structure, and you need to do that. And often when we have a business idea, we're not afforded that.
So breathing space, absolutely. It's a bit of a testing ground, isn't it, Chris? Like you're
Definitely.
saying, and it's completely fine if you explore it and you think, do you know what, this isn't the idea for me, but you'll take those skills that you learned during the next 5 months and use that in the future. So yeah, that's a kind of way to go to resilience. What business or organization do you aspire to be like? Do you have any sort of role model organizations or businesses that you like? Look up to maybe? So who are your sort of goals? Are there any maybe people in business, role models wise, you look up to? The ocean cleanup. Okay. So sustainability. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Anyone else have a kind of maybe somebody you grew up with? It might be someone personal. Catch a fire in SF. Okay. Not too familiar. Dr. Bronner. Yeah, I love Dr. Bronner products, and also they are ethical, in terms of what they stand for. Someone's just been honest and saying I haven't had the chance to think about it. LinkedIn, kinda. Yeah, amazing platform. We're all on it, aren't we? Pretty much. Okay, there's a few coming through there. And it might be something that, you need to think about it a little bit. There's actually so many businesses around us that kind of, we see on a day-to-day basis, but it might be interesting when you think about the ones that actually really inspire you. Oh, someone's written RGU, which is lovely. Oh, that's nice. Is that the first time we've seen that, Chris?
That was Colin, was it?
Yeah, it might have been Colin.
It was Aisha. It was Aisha. It was
No,
you.
was it me?
Don't worry, I'm not that devoted.
Oh, Colin. Now, I would have written EIG, Chris. See?
Yes. Let's just put that up. Hold on a second. I'm going to write that down.
It's not too late. Red Bull. Okay. Science and tech. Oh, somebody's put EIG. Was that you, Chris?
Yeah, I had to put that, but I'm putting somebody else. Not
Gosh.
science business. Jürgen.
User groups like Maps, P2P. BCC. Okay, interesting formats there. Yeah, that's a nice variety. Apart from boot camp, have you ever delivered a pitch before is the next question. So there's more people joining us just now. Unfortunately, I missed some of the getting to know you fun. No, looking forward to it. Okay. Yes, multiple times. Okay.
No
Okay.
one's dreading it anyway.
No, that's good. Okay. It seems like the majority of people are embracing the challenge, which is a really great kind of mindset to take into, mentality to take into. That's great. Yeah. And a few people seem to be more versed in pitching as well. So that's good. But still quite early stage, I'd say the majority of people, wouldn't you say, Chris? I think the majority of people here are kind of early pitchers, which is really great that we get to be part of your journey in learning how to pitch as well. Okay, and we're coming to the end now. And what do you consider to be the most important parts of a pitch? So for you, what do you think? Is it vision? Is it a problem that they're communicating, the problem, the idea in itself? Is it the idea? Is it the solution? Team, finances? What do you think is the most important thing or part of a pitch? Finances, technology. Okay. Yeah. Most people are saying the idea, the solution. Okay, vision is ranking highly. Okay. Right. So the idea in itself, if it's a good idea, as long as the idea is good, you don't so much kind of worry about the delivery of the pitch or the team even. It's more about a good idea grabbing your imagination potentially. Interesting for the majority of people. Okay. That would kind of sell you on a pitch. Yeah. Okay. Great. And I guess that goes back to the whole learning thing as well. Maybe people are curious, you know, they want to see kind of different ideas and different curiosities. Okay, so that is the end of the Mentimeter for this section. Now, I'm not going to say for sure, we do have more Mentimeter to come, but I'm not sure if we're going to have time for that today. But we will see how we get on as well for that. So I'm just going to stop sharing and then go to the PowerPoint again. Okay. And this should take us back to where we were. Okay, so jumping into it, this is why we were playing Don't You Forget About Me. And for those of you who just joined us, we will replay that. Don't you forget about me. Okay, so why are we playing that? Why are we playing that little snippet? Of course, it's a great song, but actually the reason why we're playing that is because yet again, we're going to get you to think about the value proposition and the business model canvas. And it's so important that you don't forget about these two tools on your journey. They're the sort of documents you want to constantly be kind of revisiting as well to evolve your business in terms of adaptability. So that's essentially what we're going to do going into the next section here. Which is getting you to really think about the value proposition. Kind of want to imprint this in your mind almost in a sense, the business model canvas, and get you to think about that when you're designing your business. So as you know, last week, we were kind of concentrating very much on this, and it was a case of, oh, a computer seems to have frozen. That's strange. Oh, no, it's not. Okay. It was a case of basically getting you to think about in the bootcamp, the value proposition. You know, we were working with the value proposition canvas, if you can recall, a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago now, and we got you to think about the value map, which is in the middle of the business model canvas. If you can imagine it being as part of the actual value proposition box, that is where it would slide into. Next to be followed by, you know, your key partners as well. I mean, a lot of this is guesswork. Some of this for your business model canvas is going to be guesswork. And that's what we're trying to do. Like Chris was saying at the start, you might actually start this feasibility or exploration into this business and decide, you know what, I'm not sure based on my guesswork and my research if this business is actually worthwhile pursuing, but that's absolutely fine. It's all right to pivot essentially. And a lot of what you're going to be doing, unless you're actually trading that business and starting a business tomorrow, is going to have to be based on guesswork. You know, people say, or when's the right time to start, and when's the right time to start getting myself out there, I would always say, don't start until you've done your research. That's key. And also be comfortable with that uncertainty that a lot of this is going to be down to guesswork as well, but that's absolutely fine. And sometimes that's the best guess is what you can go with as well. So a lot of this is guesswork, like I was saying, key partners, your key activities, you haven't started the business trading just yet. So you're talking about financial projections for the bank or whatever, if you're trying to get funding, sometimes they will ask you for a business plan with, 2 to 3 years worth of financials. You can't see into the future. None of us can. All you can do is make best placed assumptions and forecasts based on reality and based on actual trends in the marketplace or whatnot. So you're making best guesses based on the research and information that you've sought through, and we can help you to gather that information as well. Okay, so in terms of your value proposition, jobs to be done, and you'll remember Chris was really working on this with you at the bootcamp. So remember, your value proposition is your why. Why should people come and do business with you? Why should they use your services over the competitors? What is the essence of your business? So it's really important that you know that. It's really important that that's clear in your mind. Why are you doing what you're doing? What is your raison d'etre kind of thing? Another thing that leads on from the value proposition is your team alignment. So if you have a team, it might just be yourself as a solo founder, of course. But if you have a team, is your team aligned? Are they all on board with your raison d'etre as well, the essence of the business? So, you have to be conscious of these things. And that's why the value proposition canvas and tools like that are really powerful tools, because literally, like I was saying last week, they help you get on the same page. And also, if you're looking into these things from the outset, it saves you the risk of going off and creating something that actually nobody really wants. If you're kind of doing all this work you're front loading all this work at the start, then it saves you a lot of heartache down the road. So you're kind of, if you will, scenario planning in a lot of senses. And that is something you explore as well as part of the business feasibility and viability section. So we want to be constantly get into this process of constantly iterating. Yeah. So the value proposition canvas, like we were saying at the bootcamp, it helps make it tangible. It helps make your business visible in terms of what it is you're trying to create. It makes it easier to scrutinize. So, if you are putting different things on this canvas, let's say, and things aren't maybe making sense or gelling, it helps you take them off before you go and start to put money behind it and go down another route. It helps you explore how to create, that link between the pain relievers and the pains. And it helps you just get that right from the start. If you think you're going to have a value proposition canvas, different versions of it, maybe different scenarios even for your business, you say, okay, these are the pains and gains that I want to focus on for this version of the business. These are the pains and gains I want to focus for that version of the business for your value proposition canvas. And then you can decide which is a stronger one you want to go with roots wise as well. So that's maybe something to think about. You will get access to more value proposition canvases on Saturday. So we're getting that for you. You will get a business model canvas as well that you can work with. So don't worry, you will have time. It's not going to be today's session, but you will have time on Saturday. We'll give you half an hour at least to really sit down and think about this business model canvas and your value proposition canvas. And there's going to be some other fun activities too. So remember, like we were saying in the bootcamp, you're looking for that fit. So the right side of the value proposition canvas is all about customer profile. Like Chris was saying, getting those jobs to be done. What are the emotional, functional, social jobs that your user is looking to get done? Going to the gym, for example, like you were saying last time as well, there's always 4 things people need. It was something along the lines of looking good, So what are the things that your customer needs to do in terms of with regards to your product or service? Okay, we looked at Uber as well. If you're trying to book a taxi, you need to find the taxi, you need to, all these things, you need all these little check boxes you kind of maybe do, we all do without even thinking about it. But there are these little kind of check boxes you need to do in order to achieve a tax. So think about putting yourself in the customer's shoes again. What are the jobs that they need to be doing in relation to your service or accessing your products as well? And what would they be looking for? So it's all about that fit. So the customer profile should be kind of feeding into the value map. And how do they feed into? It's by the pain relievers addressing the pains. So the pains of Uber, for example, they were talking about, they might be stressed about being safe, for example. They wanted something that was, they don't know where the vehicle is. That's a pain for them as well. Maybe they're security conscious. A pain reliever, then you can link over in a little arrow to address that particular pain, is a tracking system or some pain that a system, somebody from Uber, using Uber or taxi service in general, they might worry about carrying around cash. So that's a pain that that customer has for Uber, for example. People that need to get a taxi, they need to normally worry about cash. What Uber did is they put a pain reliever there to address that pain, so they don't need to worry about taking cash anywhere anymore. In fact, it's automatic payments. So no money ever needs to change hands, and it's even done before, you know, a lot of the transaction is even completed. A lot of it's already sorted. And then review system and whatnot. So you always want to take the customer profile on the right-hand side is more about getting into the mindset and the little things that we don't maybe think a customer needs to do, they actually need to do to get a job, to experience a taxi ride, for example, getting in that mindset and really verbalizing it on the right-hand side. And then the value map is all about how do you address everything on the right-hand side and sort of have that synergy as well. And how do you create a product or service to address those needs on the right-hand side. Okay, so in terms of your customer profile, like I say, this is about getting into the head of the customer. That's what you're doing on the right-hand side. Always constantly asking why? You know, there's this famous saying that, you know, why does somebody buy a drill? Does anybody know why they buy a drill? Why people buy drills? Anybody want to volunteer?
For DIY?
Yeah, for DIY. What's a bigger purpose though? Why would people buy drills?
Make a hole.
Make a hole. There we go. At the essence of it, that's it. You buy a drill because you need a job to be done. You need a hole in something, right? Okay, so that's why people buy drills. Yes, they use it for different surfaces, you know, different scenarios or whatnot, but in the essence of it, you buy a drill because we can't drill with our fingers. We need a tool. So to create that hole, we need a drill. So always be getting down to the essence of what that customer wants and how can you give it to them in the easiest way that makes their life, like I say, as easy as possible. So you're empathizing, you're always constantly empathizing with the customer, right? Always trying to get into their head. You know, what's important to the customer with regards to drilling a hole. There's so many drills out there, but what makes the most popular drill the most popular? Yeah. So things like reviews and things like that on Amazon, you can start to see how actually, for example, if you were thinking there's so many drills in the marketplace, how do I get one that stands out? It can be interesting if you're really trying to do some research, is going on feedback and reviews and people send, you know, on Amazon or whatnot. That can give you some insight as to people's buying products and buying habits as well. So that's just a little side tip. With regards to the customer profile, just still sticking with that for a second, something else you might need to be thinking about is, like I say, like Chris was saying, is the functionality of those jobs to be done. So the functional is completing the task, you know, drilling the hole, in that the drill can drill. The social aspect though is people wanting to look good, gaining power. So you might go for a super max drill because that's the sort of the customer is looking for a super max that's like turbocharged drill or something like that. And looking trendy as well. Another job that they might need done is a personal aspect of the job to be done. So they need a specific emotional state. They maybe need to feel part of a clique. They need to feel part of a network. That's a personal job that person is looking to get done. I'll go back to my hair extensions business. So I sold a perfectly good hair extension product, but I actually found that what mattered more to people, and they didn't mind paying more for it, was feeling part of the cool kids. And that was kind of really well articulated on YouTube by a sort of luxury hair extension brand. So it's quite interesting. And they wanted to tag themselves using this kind of hashtag and things like that. So it's interesting seeing, do you know what? This customer group don't mind paying more because for them, it's hitting their social and their personal job to be done. They want to feel cool and they want to be able to go online on social media and put the hashtag in to say that they're this type of customer, part of the Foxy Club kind of thing. So have a think about, like I say, getting into your customer. And you can't, you know, people say, I ask people, who's your customer? And they say, oh, everyone. That's not realistic, you know, and that just shows you've not done your market research. You know, if you think about Coca-Cola, I actually have a Coca-Cola here. I'm not marketing Coca-Cola, but not everybody in the world drinks Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola know that there's certain segments or groups of their customers that will drink Coca-Cola, but it's not for everyone. So you need to get really clear who your customer is, and how to best speak their language. Okay. So have a little think as well, you know, ranking importance of the jobs, because you can't be everything to everybody. So decide on which path you kind of want to go down as well. Maybe that might be driven by profit, might be driven by other factors, but start to have a little think about that.
I think that's really important, Aisha, when you're thinking. So there's two bits there at the bottom there that I was just going to extend on. The job that people are trying to do may be dependent on the context. So again, that's why you need to empathize. So, and the example that we give there is, if I'm going to the cinema with my wife, the job I'm trying to do there might be having a romantic evening with my date night, you know, with my wife, which I don't get. That's a very different job if I'm going with my children, particularly when they're younger children, because, you know, going to see a Pixar movie or something like that. The job I'm trying to do there is probably keep them entertained for a couple of hours, but that might be different. So the context might play a role in the job they're trying to do. You might be having the same experience, or going to have the same experience, or using the same product, but the way in which you experience it or using it might be different in different contexts. And then the other thing is, some jobs that people are trying to do, the functional, social, personal, might be insignificant. And so there are rankings for the jobs they're trying to do in terms of so some of them are really important, you know, really important to their own personal or social or functional areas, and others might just be insignificant. So again, when we're asking the questions, and we're going to come on to customer discovery, when we're asking our potential customers questions to try and get insight into the jobs that they're trying to do, we kind of might need to also ask them whether it's important. Is that important? Is that feeling of exhilaration important to you? Because if it's not, then don't linger on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. It is about ranking it, it's about prioritizing it. You know, unfortunately, you can't give everything to everyone. So it's about really getting clear on that. Like you say, like Chris was saying there, going to cinema is a very different experience. You go to cinema, you want different things from that experience, going with your wife as opposed to going with your young child. You know, so get really clear on what it is your customer is looking for. And like you say, that'll be part of the customer discovery also. Okay, so I'm not sure if we have time for this. There is a section, Chris. What do you think? It's 6:06. We can try it, but it involves going back to Menti.
Yeah, so maybe move on. I think there's a lot to get through.
Okay, all right. Have a little think. I mean, we did give you time
We
for
did
this
some of this in the
bootcamp
boot camp, didn't we?
as well. Yeah. It was just to kind of go over it again, but have a little think, and you will have time actually to do this on Saturday. So don't worry, we're not going to cover it today, but you will have time. But start thinking in advance. Put yourself in your customer's shoes. And when I say customers, the group of customers you're probably going to be working with, or different groups maybe. And think about, like Chris was saying there, the different functional, social, personal, emotional jobs that they need done. So that's a little heads up for Saturday coming as well. Okay. So in terms of your customer profile, the pains, again, we spoke about this at bootcamp. What annoys your customers before, during, and after trying to get the job done? So what are their sort of bugs, you know, what are the things that really annoys them? Again, it's about asking those open questions to get that feedback from the customer, you know, getting people to try your product or service, or idea of your product or service blind, so to speak, if you will, if you're, you know, quite far away. Kind of preempting what could go wrong. Okay, so you're creating an app or something, getting really clear on things like the wireframing, the layout of, you know, all these sorts of things. What are the things that could go wrong? What happens if the app crashes? You know, you don't want to put out an app and have no sort of troubleshooting plan. You know, you're kind of preempting and trying to make life, like I say, as easy as possible for your customer. What could happen also if it just goes entirely wrong? Let's say there's not even a problem. If it lands badly, you know, as well, what happens if the job isn't working? You know, if you've got fire extinguisher business and you're trying to sell fire extinguishers, or your fire extinguishers don't work and somebody's in a fire, what happens? You know, what's the risk involved there? Risk is a huge part of investment. You know, if you're talking to investors about something that's risky business, you know, you're going to have to answer a lot of questions. And that's the sort of thing that people need to see in business plans as well.
And you'll have lots of examples of what annoys you, what frustrates you before, during, and after getting done. Anyone that's been on a BT, has got BT broadband, will have a lot of experience with what annoys customers, I believe. But, you know, just things. I'll give you another example. I've got this headphones, and I love headphones, those headphones that I use sometimes put in my ears. See the box that it comes in, I can't open it. I don't have any nails to bite my fingers, so that doesn't help. But half the time I don't know where it is. I have to find it. It's not obvious at all where it is. So that really annoys me every time I try and put on my headphones.
Yeah.
I can't open this stupid sort of
Yeah.
clam box because I can't. There we go. I did it.
But you're
That's
right,
the kind
Chris.
of thing.
Like you say, it's the design. That that's such a small thing that if they
I know.
tested it with
But
maybe enough
surrounded by
people,
stuff. These
yeah.
these
Mhm.
cables here that are sitting next to my computer here, these don't work. These are charger cables, so they functionally they don't work. So
Mm.
there's lots of things, but I imagine there's lots of things that you can think of that either make you look bad or you feel bad doing it, or just stuff that just doesn't work after, a bit of time, because there's opportunities from all these things, all these annoyances. There are opportunities out there.
Absolutely, yeah. And then, having the feedback, going on your competitor's site, seeing what people are, are they complaining about your competition? That could be, are they saying this certain thing could be better? That could be insight as to how to make it better, how to improve on it. And again, it's about ranking it in terms of importance and priorities as well. So these are some questions that you can ask. And like I say, you will get access to the slides. So don't worry if you're not making a list of all these just now. We will send you the slides after, and we will also share the recording. But the sorts of questions you could be asking to help gain that insight are, what does your customer find too costly, for example? So these are the pains, getting into the mindset of, what annoys them, like you say, what makes a customer feel bad? Is it something that gives them a headache? What risks does your customers fear? Like I was saying there about the fire extinguishers, for example, what keeps them up at night,
That's a great one. When I used to work in business development, and I used to sometimes go and get the opportunity to speak to the executive team, that was one of the questions I asked them. What is it that keeps you awake at night? What do you go home when you're driving home in your car? What is it that you worry about the most?
And what was it often, if I can ask?
That's a real staff usually. Staff,
Right, okay.
staff usually.
Yeah, well, the human factor, yeah. So yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of questions you can ask. Open-ended questions can be really insightful. Try and avoid yes or no questions. You want to get them talking. If they give you a little gem, go with it. We always say who, what, where. These can be guides as to getting to the heart of the matter, so to speak, in your particular offering. So another section is, of course, gains. What benefits do the customers want? How can you make life even better for them? Yes, you're solving the problem on a standard expected level maybe, but how can you make it even wow? The review system for the taxi service on Uber, for example. Okay, wow, I'm going to go for a top rated seller, the reviews, or something extra, okay, how can I get not just a standard taxi, but I can get an UberX, I can get different types of, taxis. So I'm not just going from A to B, but I actually have a really nice, comfortable experience. So what can you do to make life even better than they are expecting, just to get a basic task done? So have a little think about that. Nice to have features. Again, these are some questions that you can use to gain that insight for your customer discovery when you're trying to figure that out. Questions like, which savings will make your customers happy? Is it time? Maybe it's actually not time. Maybe they actually they are not fussed about their time, and they don't mind actually waiting to get the service. It's interesting. I was in America not too long ago, and there was a queue for Chick-fil-A, and in an airport, and these people were just queuing. And I was thinking, is this an airport or where are we? Because these people are acting like they don't have flights to catch, but they didn't mind queuing. For them, they just wanted their Chick-fil-A, So it's knowing what makes your customers tick. And it might be for that group of people, they're not fussed about their time necessarily in that sort of setting. They don't mind doing that. They just need their Chick-fil-A. And so Chick-fil-A, no, do you know what? We actually can afford to kind of have not the quickest, system in the world compared to McDonald's, for example. We can be a bit lax. People will wait. For people, some other people, it's money. So think about, where are the pain points for your customers, and start to find that out. So these are examples, you've kind of seen this. We touched on this in a world example with the value proposition, for example. So you saw a bit of insight there, and this is Netflix, for example. Netflix is addictive, so it's an insight with regards to people that are wanting to be essentially entertained, and they have a range of options of how to be entertained. And, you know, this is a sort of customer profile for a potential Netflix customer. So have a little think about that. I mean, you can see it's kind of categorized into different color codes as well for the Post-it notes. You can do that, you know, they're saying different options with regards to how, you know, Netflix, for example, would have built their own system or their own entertainment option, because again, that was kind of revolutionary when it kind of came around, you know, paying by the month compared to Blockbuster, for example. So have a little think about how this can be the same for your own business as well. You know, you get to watch movies and TV shows and relax, be entertained. And then a pain is, you know, it can be addictive, for example, and rankings then came in and things like that. So there's all sorts of things you can explore. All these little details we kind of take for granted that maybe actually, if you really stop and think and really get into your mindset of your customer, become really quite important to them potentially. So this is another, you know, we'll have time for this on Saturday. This is, again, your value proposition canvas. You will have time, but this is just a refresher kind of session in advance of Saturday's task as well, where you're going to be working on this document a little bit more. Okay, so the value map, again, this is on the other side. We start off with a customer profile on the right-hand side, and then kind of leans into the value map. So it's where you're asking, this is where you really get to focus on your products and services, this section, the triangle there on the left. And then thinking about which products or services can help your customer for that emotional, functional, social job to be done, and helping them satisfy their basic needs, you know. And this might be things like your services and products, might be things like tangible products, might be digital, might be all sorts of products. Something that's subscription-based, for example, there's all sorts of solutions, and don't be afraid to play with that. And again, it's about ranking these, okay? So which ones are crucial and which ones could be trivial, you know, for your customer. You want to be really clear on how your products or service alleviate the customer's pain, right? So you want to be really clear on that. It might be something that you think is important, but actually to your customer group is not that important. So make sure you're trying to avoid projecting what you think the problem might be onto the customer. Like Chris was saying there, just opening that little box is quite frustrating for him. So he might rethink buying another set, you know, in that same style of pods. So think, but you know, if they probably have unlimited, you know, accounted for people that maybe do bite their nails or things like that. So have a little think about making life, like I say, as simple for your customers as possible. So these are some questions that you can ask yourselves with regards to that, you know, products and services. Rank each pain of your products or services, alleviate according to its relevance to customers. Is it substantial? Is it significant? And you are going to have to decide which customers you want to focus on. So you will have to be really clear on that, and you will need to kind of pursue that with a passion. You know, like I say, not everyone is going to have the same bugbears, but those groups of people that do, how can you help them out as much as possible? So in terms of producing savings, it might be that they produce savings, your solution. They fix underlying solutions, underperforming solutions as well. They make them feel better, may help your customers sleep better at night, you know. So each pain, you know, kind of rank it. And that could be, again, based on your customer research by going out and speaking to your customers, like you'll be doing your customer discovery, based on how many times it pops up. Based on how many times that particular problem pops up in your feedback is kind of how you want to rank it. Game creators, like I was talking to you about, delivering above and beyond with your UberX and all these other things that you can potentially offer. It's not just A to B, but actually, okay, we can give you a standard car, but can we give you something special? Do you want to ride in a Merc? Do you want to ride in a Tesla? You know, and you pay a bit more for that. It might be good for you going to an event or something like that. How else can you actually make, and then they don't have to go off and find a different service to provide that premium, because Uber does it. Uber offers you a standard service, and they also offer you a deluxe service. They don't need to come off the platform for Uber. And I hear Uber is actually coming to Aberdeen, which is great. But you know, how can you make life even better than just the A to B? Right? Because some people don't like the standard. Some people want the deluxe. They want the VIP experience, you know. So again, it's about ranking the gains and products according to the relevance to your customer. It could be create savings again. It could be making your customer's life easier, fulfill their dreams. What are they looking for? All these sorts of things could be, you know, asking yourself these questions as well, but not just asking yourself, really getting out in the field and figuring that out. And primary and secondary market research can be really insightful for that. So primary research, market research is when you speak directly to your customers and you're getting out there and you're having real conversations. And secondary market research is basically when you're maybe going on things like going online, or you're having industry reports. You're basically, academic journals actually can be insightful sometimes, but this is sort of existing information that you're then collating for the purposes of serving your customer. So I would definitely recommend a bit of both. Yes, Google can be interesting, but of course, always consider your sources. It could be industry reports or whatnot. It could be attending conferences. That could be really insightful for you too. So this is an example of a value proposition canvas that's been filled out. Okay. So you can see how it's kind of filling in. It's listing, you know, on the customer profile side, it's talking about creating a list of the jobs to be done, because technically, if you were going to watch movies, you might need, you know, back in the day, you actually had VHSs and just stacks and stacks of them. But now you can actually have a list that's compiled and you can save that. You know, so, but that's a job that the customer who's watching movies needs to do. They need to compile their favorite list, and that could be in any form. That could be digitally or physically. It's just something that people have always done when they're deciding how to be entertained or watch what film to watch. You know yourself. You'll ask, oh, do you know any good movies? You'll ask your friends or your family. So that's a job that needs to be done before you then decide, okay, this is the movie I'm going to watch. It might seem like a small job, but it's still a job. And Netflix know this, you know, people, you know, that's why they have different things like recommendations pop up, or Amazon or what have Amazon Prime. It is a job that needs to be done. And then the customer doesn't need to think about it anymore because it's done for them. So have a little think. I mean, you know, this slide will be available, but it's an example of someone who's looking to be entertained and the kind of customer profile and the value map with regards to solving that problem for that customer. Okay. So again, it'll be your turn to have some time to do this on Saturday, and just constantly get into this mindset of it's only the start. It's always an iteration. It's always test again. Is there something that's been misunderstood? Because if it has been misunderstood, it's good to explore that now before you go off and invest time and money down the wrong path. And also making the wrong assumptions can be, you know, critical for your business as well. Oh, I just gave it away there. Damn it, I was too trigger happy. What's the most critical thing in a business? Did anybody see that?
Yes, a paying customer.
Ah, paying customer. Damn it, I was too soon, too quick. Whizzing through, Georgiana. Yes, absolutely. So it's a paying customer, absolutely. Some people say, I mean, if you didn't know that answer, some people might just say orders or something like that. Actually, orders aren't the most important thing in a business. You can have orders from here till tomorrow, but if you don't have people paying for the orders, then you have no cash flow.
Some
So
people say the technology as well, technology or staff or
Mhm.
stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, very important things. Staff, of course, are very important. Great to have staff. You need staff to get the job done. But at the end of the day, you could have a room full of staff and you've got no money coming in to pay them. It could be the best staff in the world. You've not got a fully functioning, sustainable business. You can maybe keep trading for a while, but eventually there'll come a time where it's not sustainable. So you essentially need a paying customer to keep you going. It might be a loyal customer, but you need a customer that pays. In the oil and gas industry, it can be notoriously bad for getting paid on time. You can be waiting months, and different types of industries as well. All these sorts of businesses need to accommodate for that cash flow coming in. So the most important thing is your paying customer.
And we do get some businesses that will incorporate, and they'll, you know, become a business by law, and they might call themselves a director and everything like that, and they could be going for a couple of years, and then you say to them, how many customers do you have? How many sales you've made? And they say, I haven't made any.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so, you know, what are you in business to do? So it's not just having a paying customer, but it's actually having enough paying customers to at least, you know, break even and hopefully make a profit and grow. That's really the definition of a business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's that sustainability. It's that being able to keep the lights on, you know, like you're saying, not even just breaking even, but even making profit so you can invest in the future years to come is what you're ideally looking for. So always remember that as well. So this is why we're really getting you to think about your customers so much. You might think, why is there such a heavy focus on the customers here? It's because you need a customer and you need them to pay you in order to keep your business going. So try never to forget that. And that's why it's always worthwhile being obsessed with your customers as well, to a certain healthy degree, of course. So it's a deep dive into your customer, this section, and that's why we start off the program with this as well, the desirability. This is back to the business model canvas as well. So thinking about your customer, and the session will get you a range of tools to help you look at this in finer detail. The user, so just to differentiate, there's different terms. When we talk about your customer, there's I'll give you an example. So you might have a child product or a child service. Now, who's the customer there? Who would say, could anyone say who that is?
I talk about the Xbox example for this one. So the user of the Xbox, and still the Xbox actually is my son and my daughter. Certainly when my son first got his Xbox, he was probably about 12 years old. He certainly couldn't afford an Xbox when he was 12 years old. So the customer, the person paying for the product or service, was the parents in most circumstances. The user is actually my son. And so often there's not often in some products and services, there is a difference between the user and the customer, and it's worth bearing that in mind.
Absolutely, because the customer is going to have different pain points to the user. So it's about getting really clear on that in terms of how you're then planning to market to them, or actually things like, you know, what the product or service will do as well. So that's just something to think about. What's important to the customer? So in Chris's example there, as a parent, what's important to him as a paying, you know, person who pays, and for the child, what's important to them. So it can be a bit tricky, but they are two different groups, okay?
And it's a really interesting discussion when you're doing B2B, because often the user of your product or service it won't be the purchaser. So the customer, for example, let me give you an example of that. AV equipment in a university. So projectors, you know, the university has hundreds of projectors around. I'm the user of that projector, but I'm not the customer. The customer will be going through some kind of procurement department, and IT services will probably get involved in that in somehow. But they're be the people that are buying it, whereas I'll be the user, the lecturers and the teachers and the students actually will be the users of that product. So it's really important when it's B2B.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And who's the decision-making unit? And it might not be a direct route. It might be that you need to go around in circles actually sometimes to get to the right person. Because, you know, like you're saying, in massive organizations like, you know, the council even, or the government, you know, that can become even more complicated and convoluted. And university as well can be one of those things in terms of procurement. So absolutely. Okay, so just be cognizant of that as well. So have a think about brainstorming multiple customers. And this is where it's going into, and you're seeing probably where this is going in terms of grouping your customers, right? Having different offerings for your customers. So students living in Aberdeen will have different needs compared to elderly people in care homes in Aberdeen. Right. Students probably want something vibrant, dynamic. Elderly people in care homes probably value tradition, security, stability, how they're on different platforms. They're different, they operate differently, they have different experiences, they have different behaviors. So have a think about the different groups that potentially might use your product or service. Okay, so for example, students might not have enough money, typically. Not always, of course. For farmers, the problem might not be painful enough. Elderly people in care homes, they might not be, you know, so quick to rush into things like Facebook or technology or Instagram. So there's no point advertising to elderly people on Instagram because they're unlikely to see it because they're in a care home and they're not adopters of technology anyway. Typically, again, these are assumptions. Of course, we appreciate it doesn't apply to every single person in this group, but technically it's a bit of an assumption that's being made here, and based on the stats and the figures. Yeah, so just be aware they will have different jobs to be done. They will have different pain points, these groups, and decide which ones you want to pursue. And then, of course, you have to, as if that isn't enough, you have to contend with external customer influences, you know? So who are you competing against? What does the marketplace look like in that same arena? Talking about the drill, who's your competition there? If you just need a hole made, What else could you potentially be competing with there? Not just other drill makers, but who else potentially? And what other fun, cool tools are being created all the time, you know, B&Q and all these things that can, you know, 10 in 1 that you can do and all these sorts of things, you know? What higher priorities might distract your customers from your products or services? You know, what's going to supersede what you think is a high priority for your customer, something that actually just takes over. An example of this might be the pandemic. The pandemic just took over everything, you know, and all of a sudden people were switching to selling PPE, you know, protective gear, you know, PPE and things. So, you know, that became the focus. Medical products and medical, it was all about medicine then. It just took over everything. So have a look at what's happening in this setting around your customer. What's happening in the real world around your customer in any particular place and time. Customers get distracted. You know, we get distracted. We were talking about attention spans and being like a goldfish the other day. It's getting even worse with social media. We're so used to the scroll culture, you know, so we constantly need to be entertained. You know, how can you entertain your customer and keep them engaged? What are you competing against? Other businesses, their time, their money as well. Cost of living crisis. All these things are things to be.
It's interesting because I thought you were going to talk about cost of living crisis there, because I think you're right. I think the as economics change and society changes, so does people's appetite to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I wonder how many people at the moment are spending money on expensive holidays, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people are more likely to look at how they can, you know, cut down on costs or, you know, opportunities. So as well as looking, kind of scanning some of the trends, and we are going to look at some different trends, I think, later on. You know, what are the things that are also having a huge impact economically? And we talk about pestle analysis, don't we? Political, economic, social, technological, environmental, legal, and ethical. And you know, we are, as entrepreneurs, we should be scanning all the time for those opportunities, but also because the environment's changed so rapidly, they could put you out of business almost overnight. You know, so that's why we talk about adaptability. So we talk about, you know, desirability. You know, people's chase change constantly. It's interesting now. When I ask students who's on Facebook, there's hardly any of them on Facebook. And I think the reason that they're not on Facebook is because that's where their parents are. You know, so you can see they've migrated to Instagram, but actually, I think they're even coming off Instagram now, because a lot of the younger, and particularly the Gen Alpha ones, I think, that are growing up, and the you know, the children of my daughter's age, kind of 18, 19, all on TikTok. So Instagram, you know, what's going to happen to Instagram over the next? It's a really interesting part, but technology is accelerating so fast just now. It's difficult to keep up, but there are huge opportunities out there. We just need to be able to harness them as part of our business offering.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it is, especially with things like AI, you know, speeding up so much as well. It's incredible, the rate of change. Actually, that's a good shout. Maybe put in the chat where you spend your time these days. Chris was saying it used to be Facebook. Some people are on TikTok more these days. Are you still using Instagram? Are you somewhere else? Are you in LinkedIn? Maybe just put that in the chat as well, in terms of where you find yourself spending your time. I guess you might spend it socially online for different reasons, but yeah, I mean, are you still using things like Facebook? Would be quite curious to see. Actually, there's a few comments. Somebody's saying Insta and TikTok, LinkedIn. That's coming through already. Snapchat, TikTok, LinkedIn. Okay. Yeah. YouTube. Yes, I like YouTube as well. Yeah. Okay. It's quite a few people. All of the above. Somebody put Twitter. Is it not known as X? No longer Twitter. Yeah. The platform formerly known as Twitter. Okay, so back to the opportunity costs. Think about it. So yes, you could buy a smoothie today. So if you were trying to sell smoothies, if that was your business, let's say, and you wanted to start a strawberry smoothie making business, and it's £5 for the strawberry smoothie, you might think, okay, it's simple. People want a strawberry smoothie. It sounds nice. They're probably going to go for it. Maybe it's a hot day. They're going to go for it. Like, it's going to be popular and things. But actually, the reality is, of course, there's other types of smoothies that people could get. So they might not come to you for a strawberry smoothie. They might want a kiwi smoothie. They might decide to do something else with that £5 as well. They might go buy some petrol. So the value is the £5, and that's what you're trying to collect from the customer. But you don't just have competition from other kiwi smoothies makers. You also have competition from all these other options that person could spend their £5. They could spend it buying a plant. They could top up their petrol. And then it's not even just now what they could spend that £5 on today, but also in the future. They might decide to invest it. They might buy some Bitcoin. They might, well, I don't know how much Bitcoin they'll get for £5, but they might decide to spend that £5 in another way. So you're competing essentially with a whole range of other options. Now, the great thing about it is often people don't think that hard about spending £5, of course, but that is a reality. There's so many other distractions and things on offer there, and for people to spend their £5. Okay, so have a little think about that as you're designing options or solutions for people.
I think that's really a really interesting topic, and I think we're going to come back to it when we talk about competitors, because if let's say you're opening up a bowling alley, you think your competitor is actually another bowling alley, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going out for the evening, you've got £40 that you're going to spend going bowling. Your competitor is the movies, or going out for a drink, or going to, ice skating. They're all competitors. Basically, I've got £40-50 that I'm going to spend for a night out. That's what you need to think about. So you need to pivot your mind when you're thinking about who your competitor are, because it won't necessarily be the person that's direct competition with you that's delivering something that you're delivering.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's another thing that gets the job done. The job done that I wanted done was going out for a nice evening with my family.
Mm-hmm.
That's the job I'm trying to do. And so there are lots of different ways I can get that job done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. You're looking for entertainment on a night out. You're looking for an experience, but you as a customer get to choose how you spend that money that you potentially could spend. So it goes back to the direct and indirect competition, essentially. And it's just something for you to be cognizant of in terms of making your value proposition strong enough to compete against all these other options. Yeah. So we were talking earlier about B2B, potentially, absolutely. Companies could be your customers, procurement could be your customer.
Does everybody know what B2B is, by the way?
Sorry, yeah, business to business.
There's a bit of jargon there.
Yes,
B2B,
sorry.
business to business sales, and
Yes.
direct, and B2C, business to consumer.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So thinking about what's important to them as a company. So you might find people work for a company, and those individuals might be partial to your business, to endorsing your business, but as a company, they won't sign on to your business, if you see what I mean. So certain company, now what does that, why would that happen? You're talking about things like image, company image, what's important to the company, different things they want to be seen endorsing. So the companies are going to have different pain points to the individuals that might even work in that company, and different things that they look at as gains and different things that they look at as risks. So have a little think about if it is a company, again, what's important to them, what's their strategy. That could be really strong insight as well. If you want to work with a particular company, even not just being employed by them, but even as a corporate or a business supplier, for example, it's worthwhile going on things like their company website, looking at their strategy. There's all sorts of ways you can get insight, what they've been posting about on LinkedIn, all these what do they stand for? So these are the things that are important to your potential business clients as well. Did I see someone raise a hand? Emmanuel, did you ask a question?
Yeah, I thought you mentioned something that I don't know if others picked it up, but for me, it was a bit striking. You said, actually, customers don't think hard enough. So then the question becomes, how do you operate at the wavelength of the customer if, the key to their choices is not deep thinking?
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Absolutely. No, it's a good question. So if it depends on what the customer is looking for, right? If it's £5, it might not be so important to the customer to make, oh, how am I going to spend this £5? Because maybe to some customers, £5 isn't a lot of money. So they actually don't mind. They say, okay, do you know what? I just have this £5. I want to treat myself. Let me just buy this smoothies here. I'll get it right here, right now. If it's a bigger purchase, for example, like a holiday, there you might find customers want to do a lot of research and they have more money to spend and there's more important things they want from the experience. So I would say probably depends on the value. It depends on their attention span. And typically, I think if you can make life as easy for them as possible, it's more likely you'll get a sale. You know what I mean? It's more like you'll actually get a customer buy-in because this person is producing a solution to my problem really easily. I'll just opt in. And then they don't think too hard. As long as it's meeting the key points they're looking for, it's a win. You know, even things like a referral can make it really easy for them. They say, okay, I have a problem and I have this, experience, and I speak to a friend and the friend says, oh, I know somebody that can do this for you. They've done it for me in the past. That's an easy win. They're not thinking hard, and it's even better for them because they had a referral from someone they know. So there's different ways you can kind of go around it to have it be that the person doesn't think too hard. That's why people want to get into certain networks and be on the scene and things like that, because then it makes you familiar and then people don't have to think too hard about who they want to do business with. So those are just some tips potentially. Okay.
Thinking, Aisha, do we want a quick comfort break? What's the next slide? Or were you still on this one?
Yeah, no, we can go to the next slide. So the next slide is a breakout.
Okay, cool.
So we're going to go into breakout rooms and it's just 10 minutes. It's about 20 to 7. Did you want to have a break, Chris, or are you okay?
I was wondering whether just a 5-minute maybe 2-minute comfort break and then go into their breakout rooms if you wanted.
Sure.
And by the way, we like pets on screen because I just saw one there, Colin. So Colin's dog made an appearance. Any pets that want to come on screen, they can. Any children, we do love to see any children that might want to come. Oh, there's Colin's dog waving away. Look, bless him. But yeah, any pets?
This is Ramsey, who's just in the middle of doing a massive zoomie, so I had to keep
All
it.
right. Any mums, brothers, furry animals?
Cute.
We'll always, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We like to see.
Oh, there's another cat. Whose cat's that? Shauna. Who's the cat? That's it. Oh, look at that gorgeous cat.
Oh, wow. That's a black cat. Oh, it's a black cat. Yeah.
What's your cat's name, Shauna?
Beautiful.
He's Linguini.
Linguini.
What a great name for
Good
a
enough
cat.
to eat. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, absolutely. I think, like you're saying, Chris, shall we have a quick comfort break for 2 minutes and then people come back and then we can get going?
People want to grab a drink or
okay.
bathroom break.
See you shortly. So it is 18:41 by my clock. So shall we say 18:44? That's okay?
Yeah.
18:44, 18:45? Okay, great. See you shortly. Thank you. A whistle stop or a kind of a whizzing through session. So appreciate you taking some time. Things like getting that blood moving again is good. Okay, so the next little bit we're going to go into just now is a task. So all the stuff we've been sort of chatting about this evening, hopefully you've been thinking about who your customer groups might be for your idea or your solution, your startup. Have a little think to yourself, okay, who might my potential customers be? And we're going to give you 10 minutes for this exercise, okay? And there's about 18 of you or so in the chat, and we will have it be, 10 minutes, 4 to 5 in each group. If you're struggling with people in your group, let me know. I'll be in the main room. And we're just going to give you 10 minutes to do this quick exercise, okay? So think about your potential customers, exploring your potential customers. Discuss in 3 different customer groups for your idea. So 10 minutes, like I say, and try to split it. We appreciate not everybody might have a clear thinking of who their customer will be, but hopefully the rest of the people in the group can help you with that. So if there's, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you in the group, even if you say 2 minutes each, for example, if there's 4 of you in the group, you know, you split the 10 minutes accordingly. And of course you will get that extra minute on the end as well. So try and be fair, and try and, you know, communicate your idea really quickly so people can understand what you're saying, so people can give you that insight. You know, spend, you know, 30 seconds maybe explaining the idea, and then people can give you insight on 3 different customer groups for that remaining 1 minute and 30 seconds. So think about, you know, do they have time or money, your customer groups? What are their priorities, and can they make a decision as well? That goes back to the whole parent-child potential business that you're talking about. You know, the parents buying, like Chris was saying, the PlayStation, but the child's actually using it. Okay, so really quickly, I think what I might actually do, I think actually to give people more time is we're going to make these breakout rooms a bit more. So there's going to be less people. So then actually you'll have more time in each. Let's see. So 4, I think I actually need to do it 3. I'm just thinking about the actual fairness of letting people speak, because it might take you a while to communicate what you're actually doing. Okay, so now you're all 3 and 3. So you can split the time 3 minutes each, hopefully. Okay, so we'll see you back. Please accept and join your breakout room now. And I'll be back in the main room. I might jump into some of your rooms as well, see how you're getting on. And I'll see you back in the main room in 10 minutes. Okay, so please join your breakout room now. Thank you.
Other people to give constructive feedback, you know, because that's the only way we're going to improve and get better. So I think it's really important that, you know, everybody is open to receiving constructive feedback as much as possible, and we should be open to listen. Doesn't necessarily mean we need to agree with it, you know, and that's, as entrepreneurs, that's the way it is. But I think we should be open to it. And everybody should give it permission. I think if that's something you don't want to provide to everybody else, then, you know, because the other thing is that this is kind of a bit of a closed community now, you know, and we will talk about things in a group that might be sensitive, that might, you know, be difficult to hear, but that's something that we're going to work on as we build these relationships and foster this sort of culture of entrepreneurship amongst us. Anyway, and you'll find out a little bit more about that on Saturday when we meet again in person, because I think you'll really begin to, those relationships will really begin to bond, and you begin to have that trust in one another the more we meet, particularly in person. You'll feel that over the coming months. But yeah, I'm going to quickly dive into customer segmentation. And again, this is something that I've spoken about quite a lot, but customer segmentation is really looking to break, you know, a large market down into different segments. And the reason that we do that is because it's easier to sell into or to speak to a specific segment by defined characteristics. Have I got control, Aisha, or are you gonna? Because your customer is not everyone. Your customer is going to be specific kinds of customers that often will have a very similar characteristic. So there might be people in a region, they might be people of a certain age. Just to think about and ideate around as many potential markets as possible. And so this is an ideation where you come up with, I don't know, half a dozen different markets, and then begin to evaluate them through different lenses to see which ones are going to be the most ideal for your very specific product or service. Because some of them won't be realistic. They'll be either too far away, or they might be unprofitable. They might be, the decision-making process might take too long. The person you need to speak to, you can't get to. There might be regulation, which means you can't get into that market. And so there's a number of different markets that will be unattainable to you. And so you need to think, particularly when you're in business, particularly when you have very minimal resources, as you do when you're starting up, to try and find that low-hanging fruit and hit it with all, you know, every resource that you have. And you can break down your audience. We often get people who are targeting students, for example, but you can break down students. Students is a huge body. You know, if you think about every student in Scotland, that's your target market. Well, why don't you go for undergraduate or postgraduate students? Why don't you go for students that are undergraduate and from the UK or international? And if you could go for students that are undergraduate students in the UK from Aberdeen. You're suddenly narrowing down to get this sort of very specific market. So you need to think about how you can do that and break down your audience into something that's manageable and something you can work with, at least in the first instance. Okay. So where can you narrow that down? How can you segment? It might be through the location, like we just did there, you know, Aberdeen, northeast of Scotland, the whole of Scotland. It could be the income range. You might be going for people that earn less than, you know, £20,000 a year, or you could be going for the high earners, you know, people that earn more than £100,000 a year. You can usually find out where these people are. It might be by job title. I often get sent things now in the university, and I think it's because my job title has the word innovation in it. And so I'm targeted quite a lot by people that have products and services that relate to innovation in it. And of course, you know, if you're developing an app, you kind of have a choice. You can do both, but you can either go for the Apple people, or you can go for the Android people. So, you know, you're segmenting the market, because if you develop an app and put it on the App Store, the Apple App Store, then people that have Android phone won't be able to get it. So you're already narrowing down your market quite significantly. Excuse me. But you're going to have many possible customers, and what you're trying to do is just find that ideal customer group that you can sell your product to, that want your product, that can afford your product, and will use your product, but also will then go and talk about your product, and will be a foundation for that kind of word of mouth, and will be able to refer your product to others. And then you start this viral effect, and that's how you then, you know, create a sustainable business, by having that. And the way you do that is to do what we call the beachhead market. And so what is a beachhead market? Well, a beachhead market, and this is something that we're all going to ask you to do, is to identify who your beachhead market is. But it's that small market with specific characteristics that are ideal target market for your product and service. And the beachhead strategy comes from, it's military, comes from 1944, when Eisenhower led in World War II, led the Allies in the invasion of Normandy, in the beaches of Normandy. And basically what they wanted to do was they used this as a strategy to dominate this very small part of France, with all the might of the Allied forces, to penetrate into France, to end the war. And the idea was then to establish a beachhead and take just one beach and then expand to conquer these other beaches nearby as well. And it was a success. And that's where beachhead strategy. So it explains how you start small to become a leader in quite a niche market, before then expanding to adjacent markets. Because as entrepreneurs, we have minimal resource, we have minimal time. And so going after, you know, a huge, you know, market is just unfathomable. So what you need to do is you need to decide on, you know, a small niche market where you can dominate, and then spread from there. And there's some great examples of this. If you go to the next slide, Aisha. Oh, this wasn't the slide I was expecting, but yeah. So this is called the crossing the chasm. So this is a bell chart of adoption of new products. So let's think of the iPhone, for example. How many of you have queued outside the Apple store to get an iPhone? Silly o'clock. Anyone? These are the innovators. These are the 2.5%. So there might be a 2.5 in this group, but you know, it's rare, but you do find them. That these are the people who the tech enthusiasts. You know, the moment the new what's the new goggles, the Apple Vision goggles come out, they will buy them. You know, they want to be the first on the scene. And then you have the early adopters. This is 13.5%. And what the early adopters are doing is they're kind of waiting to see, you know, they're kind of up with the tech, but they're waiting to see what the innovators are saying, because they're risk averse, because they're not going to go and jump straight in and spend, you know, £1,000 an Apple Watch or however much they are now, but they're going to wait and see what the tech enthusiasts think of them before they migrate. And then the visionary will say, well, actually, I will jump onto that. So that's the kind of too early market that you have. And then going into the early majority has this chasm, basically. It's really tough to get customers, particularly tech enthusiasts, going from innovators and early adopters to then going into mainstream market, which is this early majority. And that's probably where most of you sit, is the pragmatists or the conservatives. And so a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of investment needs to be put into these early adopters to provide some reference points so that you can cross that chasm. And there's lots of strategies that we can speak to you about how you do that when you get to that stage. And then often what happens is you get the late majority, and then the skeptics come on board, later on. So what we need to do is we need to try and cross that chasm when we get to it. So great example is Facebook. So Facebook, who knows what Facebook's beachhead market was?
Was it high five?
Was that what?
High five.
You say
Or
high
you-
five?
Yeah. Or you
High
didn't
Five
have
was a platform, wasn't it? It was back in the day. It was like Facebook, early Facebook. Is that the one you're talking about, Georgiana? Yeah.
yeah, that one.
Was it not like university students?
Yes, it was. And in particularly, it was Harvard. So those of you that have seen The Social Network, there's a scene in that where Jesse Eisenberg, who plays Mark Zuckerberg, not Jesse Eisenberg, yeah, Jesse Eisenberg, who plays Mark Zuckerberg, in it, is in his dorm in Harvard, and he's talking about the Phoenix list. And the Phoenix list was an email list of all the movers and shakers in Harvard, all the people that knew people, basically. They had access to the Phoenix list, and they also had access to Zuckerberg's email list, basically. And this was in 2004. And they sent, and it was called the Facebook at that time, and they basically sent this idea of a social network platform to those two lists, because they knew if they could get people from those two lists using it, that it would go viral. And basically that's what happened. So they did that in 2004. By 2006, they had 12 million people on it. So their beachhead market was in particular Harvard. And once they got that university, done, they moved the shakers in Harvard, expanded out to Harvard. Then when they got that university done, the students at that university, they then went to the next university and got the next lot of students. So that was their strategy. They didn't really call it a beachhead market then. It was just something that they did as part of the development of Facebook. But looking back now, you can see that actually what they did, it was they executed a good beachhead strategy. But the best beachhead strategy ever was the next slide. Was this person. Anybody know who this is? It's a Simpsons mock-up of somebody. Any guesses who that is?
Come on, don't be scared, guys.
Was
Who's
it
bold?
Chris before he got grey hairs?
Was it who? No.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
actually, not bad. And I do have a red hoodie. Jeff Bezos
Yeah.
from Amazon. Amazon are probably the world's best example of executing a beachhead strategy. So Amazon started by Jeff Bezos in a garage in Washington in July 1994. And obviously he didn't have, a lot of money, but he did want to create a business. And so what did he focus on? What was his focus? What was his product that Amazon sold back in the day? Books. Michael, remember? Books. And it was interesting because he was capturing a market where the book chains hadn't quite caught on to e-commerce, haven't quite caught on to the internet, was growing. And he caught onto a product that was fairly low price. So, around $10, $20, could be fairly cheaply delivered by post and would fit through the letterbox, So he focused 100% on books and captured that market that the bookshops were left sleeping. And he captured that market and he put all his attention onto that market. But he also used it as a way of testing his fulfillment, his delivery, and he kind of started this from his garage. So he was really testing the concept for what he wanted with the product of books. And then, of course, once he found that books were successful and that his fulfillment and the business model was working, he then very quickly jumped to an adjacent market, which was CDs. Similar cost price, similar price, similar size, similar weight, and so he gradually built it up as he developed his business and his business model, and he proved that the fulfillment could work and that people were he had customers for it. He then moved on to other products to create, Amazon, one of the largest, most successful companies in the world. But his beachhead market was books, which is really important. And so another reason that entrepreneurs need a beachhead market was because as entrepreneurs, we are, it's difficult for us to be focused, If anyone's like me, they're constantly having different ideas and can I do this, I can do that, and maybe I should be doing this, maybe I should be doing that. And what a beachhead market forces on us as entrepreneurs to do is to focus. There's a Romanian saying, and Georgiana can help me with this one if you want. I believe it's a Romanian proverb that says, the person that chases two rabbits catches neither. I believe it's a Romanian proverb anyway. I've been told it's a Romanian proverb. Yeah, the person that chases two rabbits catches neither. So choose a rabbit.
Rabbits, it was birds, but I'm sure it's like in many languages.
Okay, well, I need to change it. So yeah, and so let's not chase two birds. Focus on one bird. Put all your limited resources, all your effort into that beachhead market, and go for it with everything that you have, because you've got the biggest chance of gaining traction in that single market. You'll get to know the market, you'll get to understand the market, you get to know the people in the market, how it works. And so you'll be able to test that market, and also have a market that's a good size for you to test it, but also have a market that can refer to one another. Because one of the best things about a beachhead market is that you kind of need that word of mouth. You need that referencing between people in that market so that it can take on that viral effect and spread like wildfire. So have we got 10 minutes? Is this the last slide?
Yeah, I don't think we've got time for this segmentation. We do have the Tamsan song as well to get into. So but it's maybe something that people can work on, in terms of segmenting their markets as well, between now and Saturday even.
Some homework, some homework.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What would be your 5 potential markets, and what would likely be your beachhead one? We do have a canvas that actually helps you to score your markets. So you put the 4 markets at the top. There's some different questions that ask you, do they have the money? Are they, can they, is there a compelling reason to buy that they have? Does it align with your own kind of, moral compass? So there's lots of different questions about each market that you would answer, and you would score them, and you score them and rank them at the bottom, and you'd come out with what could potentially be your beachhead market. So we have some of them canvases that we could bring on Saturday. Oh, here it is here. So here are the questions that you would ask. Are they well funded? Are they readily accessible? Do they have a compelling reason to buy? Can you today, with the help of partners, if needed, deliver the whole product? What competition is in that market that might block you? If you win that segment, are there other close by segments that you can then leverage beyond it? So, so if you were doing high schools, for example, could you then leverage primary schools, or could you leverage colleges straight after that if you were selling something into them? And then also, and this is an important one, coming back to the values that we did in the boot camp, is the market consistent with the values and passions of the founding team? Are there certain markets that you wouldn't go into? Gambling. I never forget, once I worked at a university, I won't say which one, and there was an opportunity to do some work with Lockheed Martin on a missile technology, and the academic refused to work on it because it was supporting, warfare basically, and it didn't align with its own moral compass. So, are there some markets that you'd prefer not to go into? And does it align with your own your own strategy, but also your personal moral compass. So this is where I talk about word of mouth. So how do you know when you've got to a beachhead market? Well, it must satisfy three conditions. The first one is the customers within the market all buy similar products, and they expect that product to provide that similar value to them. They go through the same sales process, so the same product was the book, same sales process was the ordering online, and it comes through the post. But there's also word of mouth as well. So book enthusiasts will talk about it to one another. So there's word of mouth between customers, or one or two customers serve as really strong referencing points from one another. Universities, there are 19 universities in Scotland. All the principals talk to one another regularly. All people in my level who are working on entrepreneurship speak to each other regularly. I know everybody who is the head of entrepreneurship in every other university in Scotland. So you have this kind of reference point, you have this word of mouth. So somebody sells me a really good product, a platform or something like that, it's likely that I'm going to tell them about it. So you have this word of mouth so that you can get that viral effect and build them economies of scale. And this is the scoring of the potential market. So we have a canvas that we can give you on Saturday where you can score this basically, and it helps you to make some early decisions as to which beachhead market is likely to be the one that you're going to go for. Cool. So now, once you've decided what your beachhead market is going to be, you then need to do some analysis of, well, how profitable is that market going to be? How large is that market going to be? Is it going to provide me with enough customers and enough revenue to build a sustainable business? Or is it just too small? Are there enough customers there, and are they going to pay you enough money? Because if it's not, then you might want to reconsider. We had a company, I don't know if they're in the Accelerator program, they're on another course we were doing, and their beachhead market was bird watchers. And so she did some initial analysis on how many, I think they're called twitchers, are they called twitchers? How many twitchers there were in Scotland. And then she kind of looked at the northeast of Scotland. And it wasn't a very big market, actually, when she found it. And then if you think about how much she was going to be asking these people to pay her for the subscription, actually the market wasn't going to be big enough to even pay her a yearly salary. So she would need to think whether she was going to take that business part-time or whether she was going to try and extend the market. And so how do you measure the size of that market? Well, there's three ways of measuring it. And this is something, again, that we're going to ask you to do, is to look at what's known as TAM, SAM, SOM. TAM is what's known as the total addressable market. So that's the annual revenue generated that if you got the 100% of everyone in that beachhead market. So if everybody in your beachhead market bought your product or your service, that's the amount of revenue that you would have. But of course, you wouldn't be able to fulfill that because there's only one of you, and maybe you've only got 2 or 3 products. So you have finite resources. And so then you need to think about what the SAM is. What's the percentage of the TAM, the total addressable market, that you can actually fulfill, given that there are only 24 hours a day and that there might be only 1 or 2 of you, or you only have 1 or 2 products, or you only, are able to shift product in a certain size because you don't have the investment currently to, expand production or anything like that. So the SAM focuses on, your internal resource or lack of it. And then the SOM is what's the realistic targeted market that you can realistically get, given the competition, the trends, the expected demand that you have, and your ability to deliver that. So those are the 3 that we're looking at, because really what you need to be focusing on is a serviceable, obtainable market. And there's a number of ways you can calculate that. The best way to do that is what's known as the top-down calculation. Sorry, there are 2 ways of doing it. The easiest way, but probably not the most valuable way of doing it, is top-down. And that's by getting reports or Googling, and saying that in Scotland, the market for this is valued at this, and we think we can get this percentage of it. It's kind of not evidence-based a lot of that is guesswork. And if you went into a pitch and you said, according to the industry, this is a $20 billion market in 2022, and we're going to get 1% of that market. Where's the evidence for that? How can you do that? It's not very sophisticated, and you'll be laughed out the room by an investor. The better way is by using real data and customer insight. So this is called the bottom up, and this is by going to speak to people. And what you do is you take a small subset of a local situation and you extrapolate that for the whole market. So let me give you an example of that. Let's say our beachhead market was universities in Scotland. I would go and speak to 3 universities and ask them what their current spend is over the next 5 years on AV equipment, if that's what I'm selling, kind of thing. Now, if I get that data, I can then go, well, if this is what RGU, Aberdeen and Dundee have asked me, then I'm going to predict that actually that's going to be something similar for Strathclyde, Edinburgh, all these other universities. And so I'm going to extrapolate it up using some data that I have from the research that I have as well. So if I know that they spend on average this amount on projectors a year, and maybe that's per classroom, then I know how many classrooms. I can go and find out how many classrooms there are in all these other universities, and I can make some assumptions, but I can make some really solid predictions on how much they're going to spend based on what I already know. And that is a lot more evidence-based than the other way, which is really just looking at Google reports that many will be out of date. Because to calculate the TAM, we would have the estimated number of users in your beachhead market, either through the top down or bottom up, by the estimated annual revenue from each of those customers. But remember, they're estimates, and we are making assumptions about how many people are going to buy and when they're going to buy them. So we do need to caveat that by saying that. And the other thing, of course, we need to remember is they don't buy them every year. You need to think about what they're doing over the lifetime of the job that they're trying to get done. So, for example, if I spend £5,000 on a car this year, I'm probably not going to spend £5,000 on a car next year and £5,000 on a car next year. I'm probably going to buy a car every 5 years. Yeah. So if I'm paying £5,000 for a car now, I'm not going to be your customer again for another 5 years. So you need to think about that. You need to think about what the customer's available budget is, because again, they change with economic circumstances, particularly with energy costs. So many people are spending so much money now on electricity, oil, and gas that they're maybe not going on holiday. And it's also worth looking at what other similar products are out there. What data points are you offering? It comes back to Aisha's comment about the milkshake. If I'm selling a £5 milkshake, and across the road they're selling a £4 milkshake, and they're of similar quality, then it's likely that they're going to be going there. So you need to be cognizant of all of these things. And an exercise that we will ask you to do is to identify who your beachhead market's going to be, and then give us some reflection on the value of that market. Because that market needs to be big enough. If that market's too small, then you need to think, why are you bothering? So how can that market be big enough to make sure that you are making enough revenue to have a sustainable business?
Yeah. And to be fair, Chris, this exercise probably does require some research into the market.
Yeah,
it's probably something that, although we say we allocate some time for that today, it's technically something you will need to go away and do some research and industry reports or what have you. It's pretty hard to do this.
And we can help you with that. Your mentor should be able to help you with that, whether it's bottom up or top down. We can certainly help you with that. And then if your market isn't big enough, sometimes it's too big, too ambitious. But if it's not big enough, then we can help you to think about what other markets you might be able to get into. And of course, the other thing is you need to, when we say big enough, we need to think about what it is that you need and what your ambitions are. Are you a lifestyle business? Are you wanting to, grow a multi-million-pound business? What is it that you're trying to do? If my old boss used to say, go big or go home, and if you're market wasn't at least £5 million, then why bother? But it does depend on what it is that you want from your business. And we've got lots of different businesses here. So yeah, but it's worth thinking about what your beachhead market is and what the size and shape of that market is likely to be.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Chris. I mean, like I was saying, thanks guys for sticking with us to the end as well, because I appreciate that was a bit of a whirlwind maybe, and we go through a lot of slides there. But we basically have covered the main points on the right-hand side of the desirability section of the business model canvas. So that's really fantastic. And like we're saying as well, there will be certain sections that we cover again quickly on Saturday for you, the ones that we kind of missed out on tonight. So just to recap, this is what we covered in today's session, and it was great actually kind of hearing your questions come through and your suggestions as well. Our next meeting is going to be on the 3rd, so 3rd of February, which is a Saturday, folks. Please remember, I will be sending out reminders. We'd love to see you in person. Again, for some of us, might be the first time. Maybe not everybody who signed on to the program actually was present at the boot camp, so it'd be great to have everybody together in the one room. And if you're not able to make it, please at least remember to send at least one representation from your startup, because like I say, we are really valuing attendance and engagement as the program progresses in terms of being able to have access to things like the prizes and things like that later on. So we do appreciate your effort as well. Also, just to say, we will be for the first year working with a transformational coach. So that is going to be with us on Saturday. Judith is going to be in the flesh on Saturday with us for about an hour and a half, which is really exciting. She's going to tell us a little bit more about what she does and also the services that are available to you through her expertise. So we're really excited to be working with Judith. So I would again stress to come along on Saturday, because we're not going to be recording the Saturday session. So we don't want you to miss out on that valuable session. So please make sure that you actually attend in person, because there's no other way you can really catch up on that session if you miss it, unfortunately.
And we will feed you. We will provide you with breakfast and lunch.
Yes.
And actually, it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun on a
These
Saturday.
sessions.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
They are a lot of fun. We'll play some games. You'll get to know the AIG team more, and you'll get to also, spend time with your fellow cohort, which is also invaluable. So please make sure you don't do yourself a disservice and come along in person. In terms of next steps, again, a lot of this has been spelled out in my emails, but just to say, we do have a team space. If you're not connected now, please let me know. We will be getting those rgu.ac email addresses coming through, I believe, tomorrow. For those of you that don't have an RGU student account, we will set you up with associated student status. That's absolutely fine. So I'd imagine by the end of this week that will be sorted, which gives you access to all sorts of benefits like the library and so on and so forth, and also the team space, because unfortunately that won't work with a Google Mail address. Please don't forget also, it's an optional activity, but the unfiltered networking session is coming up, and that's the first Wednesday of every month, and you can register for free through the Teams channel. So if you go to the Teams channel, there is a tab and you can click on, and that'll take you straight to the actual networking event. Now, just to go into a bit more detail about this is actually a very relaxed networking event. It's always very popular, very busy. It's going to be based at the same location that we're hosting our Saturday sessions in the One Tech Hub. So please do come along. Again, the breakfasts are free, which is great, but also it's a great way to start plugging you into the entrepreneurial ecosystem nice and early. Don't be scared. There's actually a nice mix of people in the room that are quite friendly. And again, like I say, we definitely have a huge RGU presence because we're based in this building anyway, and there'll be so many people that know the RGU Accelerator. So please don't feel that you can't come along or too scared. We will be there to support you as well. And then just to stress as well, the live sessions will be delivered obviously on Zoom. So for all our virtual sessions will be on Zoom, always the same link. And then on Saturdays, that will be in person at the One Tech Hub. So this will be for the people, it's not going to apply to everybody, but for the people who are waiting for their associated student status, this is basically how you'll use your login through Microsoft. So you will get issued an email and also where the information is with regards to your account, and then you basically just sign up or log in, and you'll be able to access those services as well. So in terms of the Microsoft Teams channel, just to spell out where things are, if you go onto the Teams channel, these are the arrows for the posts. So that'll be things like updates and news and general convos. And then if you can see the files tab there, so that space is for uploading. So that'll be for where we store things like our sessions, or, you know, things like our slides will live in the files section, for example, from the sessions, and our recordings as well will live there. So tonight's recording will be stored on there. And then the resources tab, that gives you access to your online resources. So things like Articulate Rise. So I will say that tab will give you access to further resources, not just the files or not just the slides from the session. So Articulate Rise is certainly one worth checking out. It's also where we host all your request forms. So will in our next phase, at the start of the next phase, be looking to open up things like your funding requests, things like your key card requests, for example, for the One Tech Hub. Although with that this year, we're going to base that judged on usage. So we're going to have you come to the location and depending on usage, then issue out key cards. So all your sort of requests forms will be in your resources tab at the top of the Microsoft channel. And then one more as well, you know, you'll actually find things like the bootcamp pictures are on here. So do definitely check out the tabs at the top of the channel. And you can also sign up to your networking. In terms of the location for Saturday session, we're going to be based at the One Tech Hub, which is actually where Chris and I have spent all day today. Various activities going on here, including networking and whatnot. So the One Tech Hub is basically, if you're at School Hill, it's right next to the Robert Gordon College. That's probably the easiest way I can describe it, right opposite Belmont Street. So we are based in this lovely building and we're right at the top. I always joke and say it's the penthouse suites we've got, but we do have probably a really good level, I would say. So you're going right to the top. So on Saturday, we are having this access, which is great because it's out of hours. So it'll be just ourselves in the building. So if you come through the front door on Saturday, any problems at all, please give me a buzz on my number. My mobile number is at the end of my email signature. But if you have any problems coming in, but the front door should be open on Saturday and security will then get you to sign in and then direct you to the top floor, which is where the penthouse suite of the startup station is. And we have a great facility here, which is nice and spacious as well. So this is a map of how to get there. Take a screenshot if you need. But like I say, probably the easiest way to think about it is it's right next to Robert Gordon College or right opposite Belmont Street on School Hill. Okay, so please come here on Saturday. Arrival for 9:30 a.m. and then we'll begin and kick things off at 10 a.m. and we'll wrap things up at 4 p.m. and that will include breakfast and lunch. So just show up, just come with yourselves, bright and sparkly, and we'll have a great day. Okay, so that is basically the main points. Does anybody have any questions? I'm just conscious of time. Run over slightly again. Apologies. Is that all making sense? Okay, great. Well, fantastic. Well, if there's no questions, we look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you have a lovely evening and enjoy the rest of the week as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you Saturday.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.